Just because it's sin for you doesn't mean that it's sin for another person. You don't believe me? Let's take a look at the scriptures. You all remember Samson, mighty man of God. His mother was given specific instructions. He is not to cut his hair, he is not to drink from the vine, and he had to follow those instructions. Now, one person can drink wine, and one person is not told to cut their hair, but they're still in the will of God. We have to be very careful that we don't put what God has convicted of us of and instructed us to do on other people. In the same way, we don't want to point the finger and look at somebody else calling and say that they're out of the will of God because we didn't receive that instruction. So you have to be very careful not to oppose the will of God, but that you're in synchrony with the Father's will. Because he will give you patience and grace and compassion for the next man. He'll give you understanding so that you know that even though they may not flow in the same rhythm as I am, they're still with God. But that takes walking by the Holy Spirit, because the Holy Spirit will allow you to test the Spirit by the Spirit, but you've got to ask yourself, what spirit is within me? There's a lot of spirits, but you want to be filled with the Holy Spirit, because the Holy Spirit will lead you to eternal paths of truth. So we have to be very careful about that. You know, there are things that I'm convicted of. There are things that I don't desire to do. I don't desire to drink. I don't desire to smoke. I don't desire to do certain things because God has graced me with the strength that I don't walk in those ways. But because I don't drink wine doesn't mean that if you drink wine, you're in sin. Everything has to be taken before the Lord. I will say everything. If you drink, don't be a drunkard. If you drink, you have to make sure you're vigilant and you're not overly filled with wine and not the Spirit of God. So you have to be careful, and how you partake of these things that could cause you to, hallucinate, or, take you out of yourself, your awareness, right? I like to be sharp. I like to be aware. And when you drink, that can take you out of the vigilant mode, right? So you have to be very careful. But again, these are things that you have to be led by the Spirit. What I am instructed and compelled to do may not be what you are instructed to do. And that does not mean that you are in sin or out of the will of God. And again, we want to be careful about judging people, because we live in a time where, everybody wants to judge. But I say, let the Lord judge his own servants, right? Be careful that you don't condemn a man or woman of God because you lack understanding, and you're actually condemning the Holy Spirit. That's a dangerous position to be in, because you do not know the assignment that was given to that brother or sister. So I hope that these words are encouraging, edifying, and that you're learning from them. Short and sweet, to the point, but I hope that it is something that you can grab a hold of, and that it is spiritual meat that you can chew on and think on, but most importantly, take it to the Father.